Hey, what's up guys? Vegas Jay here. Hey, today I want to show you guys 3 key tactics to leveling up your Baccarat game. If you want to take your Baccarat game essentially to the next level and make some really good money, more than just luck, you kind of need a winning strategy. Not kind of, you need a winning strategy. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal 3 tactics that I traditionally use and most professional Baccarat players use. Not that I'm a professional Baccarat player, but these are the things that we've been taught in the casino with other Baccarat players that are professional. So again, whether you're a beginner, a high roller, these strategies are definitely going to help you level up your game instantly. So let's dive in real quick. But before I do that, darn it, I missed it. I was going to place a quick bet because I want to play live with you guys as we're kind of going over these tactics. Now, the first tactic is going to be a little strange and you're going to be like, what, James? But it's basically this: bet smarter, not harder. Now, what I mean by that is that the first rule of winning any Baccarat game is betting smarter, right? A lot of players will just come in here and aimlessly bet banker, player, player, banker, banker, player. They'll run an algorithm. They'll do all kind of crazy things and just essentially bet randomly with no strategy, right? But there is a strategy. And the secret is this, that the banker has a lower house edge. It's just 1.6% compared to the player, which is 1.24%. And again, these percentages to a certain degree don't really matter right this second. And it may seem like it's really not that big of a deal. Sorry, I'm watching this as well. We're gonna go to banker real quick. We're gonna go to banker. And it may not seem like that big of a deal right away, right? But if you play long enough or a larger period of time, it actually makes a huge difference, because even though at the end of the game, and you'll see this, notice over here to the left, right now there's 6 players and there's 8 bankers. By the end of this shoe, they will be pretty even, right? But it's the way the banker presents itself that makes it such an alluring bet. So I personally favor banker bets unless a pattern suggests otherwise, such as a chop pattern, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So the first tactic is this: bet smarter, not harder. Stick to banker bets and leverage the casino's edge in your favor, okay? And I'm gonna spit out some percentages here, but really, these are the percentages of Baccarat. The house edge is basically banker has 1.6%, right? The player has 1.24%, and the percentage of a tie happening is 14.36%, which sounds like you want that, but that is a horrible edge, obviously. We're gonna bet banker, right? So I'm doing exactly what we just discussed, right? Banker is the more predominant bet, and that's what we're betting right now because we've recognized what's happening over here on the shoe. And that leads us into tactic 2, right? Pattern recognition and streak riding. Streak riding is probably my favorite betting strategy altogether, but here's what that means. Baccarat is a game of streaks and patterns. Instead of switching bets randomly like back and forth, what we traditionally do is we track trends. And a trend that's happening right now, which you've just seen play out, is the banker trend, right? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And essentially you want to recognize these early on or as soon as possible so that you can ride these streaks, right? This is pattern recognition, meaning I'm recognizing the pattern and I'm riding this streak as long as it lasts, right? For example, a banker hitting 3 times in a row, boom, you stay on that banker until you lose that bet. Banker wins again, right? So it's ironic. We're playing live as I'm teaching you the strategy, and it's happening exactly as we've kind of played out. So I essentially wait for 1 or 2 hands, like you saw these 2 right here, where it's a double pattern, whether that be banker, banker, or player, player, and then you essentially want to ride that streak until it ends. I essentially want 1 hand to go player before I move over to the other betting pattern. And here's what I mean by that. So we're going to bet banker until player wins. Perfect. Man, I wish I did that. Man, this is a perfect timing video. So now player just occurred, right? So what we would do is now we would switch from banker and we would move over to player, hoping or recognizing that in the probability, a streak could occur on the player side. Now that doesn't always happen, but that's the whole point. Tactic 2, pattern recognition, recognize what's going on in the shoe. And then if you have the opportunity to jump on those streaks and ride them till they end, just like we did right here. Banker won on that one, okay? Now, going back to pattern recognition, there are patterns that occur such as banker, player, or player, banker, player, banker. You want to make sure, again, sticking with tactic 2, you want to make sure that you recognize those early. Now, I traditionally don't jump in right away. So you can see right here, we've got a banker, a player, and a banker. You could immediately go player here, which there you go. Now you see that the chop is in effect, right? It's kind of been confirmed. Banker, player, banker, player. So we're going to bet banker and follow the pattern in the sequence. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of chop patterns, but since we're talking about pattern recognition, this is a great opportunity to recognize that. And streak riding, as I mentioned, is my favorite. But that's tactic 2, okay? So let's move on to tactic 3, and this is really important, especially for you martingale guys out there. Let's see what happens real quick. Banker wins. So you can see that that played out, right? So here we go. I just want to show you what that looked like. Banker, player, banker, and we bet on that banker and we won, right? So again, pattern recognition, very important, and also streak riding. So that leads us into tactic 3, which is probably the most important, and that's bankroll management and betting adjustments, okay? Here's where most people will fail as players, right? It's essentially bankroll management. They bet too aggressively when they're losing. So if I'm losing, I'm going to go from 5 to 10 to 20 to 40. Before I know it, I've got a $500 bet out there just to win $5 back, right? And when they are winning, they actually do the exact opposite. They don't press those winnings. In fact, if they win 100, the next bet's 50, right? So that right there in itself is, casinos love that, right? They want you to bet just like that, but we're not going to bet like that, right? So my personal approach, I like controlled bet progression rather. So if I'm losing, I'm going to stay kind of flat for a little bit. And then if I'm losing more than 2 to 3 hands, which in my strategy I typically wouldn't, because I would have switched strategies. You can use a Fibonacci sequence, right? Let me go to banker real quick. A Fibonacci sequence is great, and that's essentially 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. And you can actually look that up. You're essentially just adding the previous 2 numbers together to get your next bet. For example, 1 to 1 equals 2. That's the third sequence. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. And that's how that sequence goes. The good news about that is it helps you manage your bankroll, and it helps you keep profits, or kind of help you lock in profits as you're kind of going through it, right? The other scenario that you can do on that is it's called cycle betting, right? And cycle betting is where you bet 5 hands in a row at the same level. Let's go to player. At the same row. And before I just want to pause real quick. So remember tactic 2, right? So we had a little streak here of bankers, 1, 2, 3, and we were riding that streak. And then it broke up by a player. So we moved over to player. And I want you to recognize that. That's what that means in tactic 2 with regards to recognizing the patterns, right? And then riding the streaks, and then betting that pattern until it stops, and then switching over. Okay, so back to bankroll management. When you're winning with the Fibonacci sequence, that 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, etc., you're literally locking in profits without jeopardizing a large bankroll. Now, I know what you're going to say. That sequence can get very large very quickly. So you have to have bankroll management stop losses, right? I traditionally would never go over a $100 bet. Well, that's not true. I wouldn't go over a $200 to $300 bet. Now, that's just my approach, because if you're betting with $25 units, player, banker, so it switched over, we're gonna go banker. If you're betting with $25 units, you can reach that fairly quickly. So it's not too high. If I were betting dollar units, you may want to set a stop loss of 50, right? So I'm not going to bet more than $50 in a session, right? To kind of, one, keep your profits, but more importantly, keep your bankrolls so that you can play again another day, right? So those are the key 3 tactics. And they seem simple to start with, but if you use those, they will absolutely elevate your game. And they're really, honestly, the 3 key tactics that most professional Baccarat players will play. It's the ones that I use basically every single day. So let's go over these real quick. You have it all now. The 3 powerful tactics, here they are, is be smarter, right? Favor the banker bet when in doubt. If you don't know, bet banker. Follow the trends, right? Ride those streaks instead of fighting them. Don't always try to jump in front of the train. And you bet those until they stop. When they stop, you switch over, right? And then the third one is manage your bankroll. Probably the most important. You cannot do 1 and 2 if you don't have any bankroll. All right, man, look, I hope you guys enjoyed these tips. Drop a like, please. Subscribe. Love to have you guys on there. And honestly, let me know which strategy you think is the best, right? Which one do you guys use the most? And let me know. Maybe I'll try it, and we'll shoot a video, and we can see how it works on live games. But in the meantime, we're going to play one more hand, to close this bad boy out. It looks like we got a little alternating pattern here, right? Tactic 3, banker, player, banker. So let's go player, because that should be the last one in the sequence. And I really hope that you guys use those strategies. Check it out on even regular simulations if you want to. They work really well, and they help you control your bankroll. Oh, there you go. And we'll close this out on a win, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Vegas J is out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.